The night my father threw me out, it wasn't raining. There was no dramatic thunder. No storm to match the chaos inside my chest. It was worse than that. It was quiet, so quiet, that I could hear my own heartbeat as my father pointed at the door and said, "Get out of my house, Ethan, and don't come back." I was 18 years old, and my crime, believing my own sister would never destroy me. My name is Ethan Miller. I was 18 years old that night, clean-shaven, hopeful, and still stupid enough to believe family meant safety. My sister, Rachel Miller, was everything I wasn't: charming, dramatic, and always believed. I was the quiet one, the one who fixed things, the one who stayed out of trouble. At least, until she decided I didn't deserve to stay. It started with a missing envelope, a scholarship envelope, one that could have changed my entire future. Full ride, tuition, housing, everything. It arrived on a Tuesday. By Wednesday morning, it was gone. And by Wednesday night, my life was over. I saw him take it. Rachel's voice was soft, trembling, perfectly controlled. She stood in the living room, fake tears lining her eyes. My father looked at me like I was a stranger. "You stole your sister's acceptance package?" he asked, disbelief hardening into anger. "What? No, Dad, it was mine," I said, my voice shaking. Rachel shook her head, crying harder. "I worked so hard for that," she whispered. "Why would you do this to me?" That's the moment everything changed, because my father didn't hesitate. He chose her, immediately. "Enough," he snapped. "I don't want excuses. I want you out of this house." My heart dropped. "Dad, please listen to me. I didn't do this." But he wasn't listening anymore. In his eyes, I was already guilty. I packed in silence. A duffel bag, a few clothes, a couple books, and the last pieces of a life I thought I had. Rachel stood at the top of the stairs, watching. No tears anymore, just a faint, satisfied smile. That was the moment I understood. She didn't just want the scholarship. She wanted me gone. "Where am I supposed to go?" I asked quietly. My father didn't even look at me. That's not my problem anymore. And just like that, I wasn't his son. I walked out of that house at 18 with nothing. No money, no support, no explanation, no second chance. Just a lie. That destroyed everything. The first few months were brutal. I slept on a friend's couch, worked double shifts at a grocery store, studied at night using borrowed books. Every day felt like survival. But something inside me changed. Pain became fuel, silence became strength, and one promise kept repeating in my head. One day, they will know the truth. Years passed. I didn't chase revenge. I chased control. I studied finance, law, and corporate structure at night. I worked my way into internships, then junior analyst roles, then corporate strategy, while they lived in comfort. I built myself from nothing, piece by piece, lesson by lesson, scar by scar. I never called home, not once, and they never called me either. To them, I was a mistake they erased. To me, they were a chapter I closed. Until the letter arrived, 12 years later. It was a simple envelope, my father's name on the sender line. No apology, no explanation, just one line inside. "We need to talk." I stared at that sentence for a long time. 12 years of silence, and now they wanted to talk? I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel pain. I felt calm, because I knew something they didn't. The truth doesn't disappear. It waits, and when it returns, it destroys everything built on lies. I picked up a pen, sat down at my desk, and began to write my reply. Every word measured, every sentence precise, not emotional, not angry, just the truth, because I wasn't the scared one, 8-year-old boy anymore. I was Ethan Miller, and I had spent 12 years preparing for this moment. The letter would arrive in 3 days, and when my father finished reading it, nothing in our family would ever be the same again. The letter arrived on a Friday morning. It sat on my father's desk for almost an hour before he touched it. Plain white envelope, my name on the return line. No emotion, just quiet certainty. He didn't expect fear. He expected a broken son begging for forgiveness. But that's not what he opened. Inside was a single, typed letter. No drama, no insults, No anger, just facts. And evidence. Dad, 12 years ago, you made a decision without asking a single question. You chose a story over your son. You chose convenience over truth. You chose Rachel over me. You never asked for proof, so I gathered it for you. His hands started to tremble. He read slower now, more carefully, because something in the tone felt different. Controlled, measured, dangerous. Attached to this letter are documents from the university admissions office, the courier delivery service, and internal email logs. The scholarship envelope that disappeared was never Rachel's. It was mine. It was addressed to Ethan Miller, delivered at 2:14 p.m. on Tuesday. Signed for, be Rachel Miller. The paper slipped slightly in his hand. His chest tightened. He read the next line again. Signed for, be Rachel Miller. Across the house, Rachel was in the kitchen, making coffee, humming softly, like nothing in the world could touch her. Back in the study, my father kept reading. I also obtained security footage from the neighbor's camera system that recorded our front porch that day. At 2:16 p.m., Rachel entered the house holding my envelope. At 2:19 p.m., she walked out again, without it. That envelope never left the house. It was never stolen. It was taken and hidden. My father's breathing grew heavier. A slow, creeping dread began filling his chest, because for the first time in 12 years, he wasn't certain anymore. He stood up, walked out of the study, letter still shaking in his hand. Rachel, he called. She turned around casually. Yes, Dad? He held up the paper. What is this? For the first time in years, Rachel's smile didn't reach her eyes. I don't know, she said quickly. He's lying again, Dad. You know how he is. The same tone, the same performance, the same script. But this time, it didn't land the same way. My father's voice was lower now, more controlled. Then explain this. He pointed at the line. Signed for, be Rachel Miller. Her silence lasted 2 seconds too long, and that's all it took. Dad, it's probably a mistake. Those records can be wrong, she said quickly. But her voice wasn't steady anymore. It cracked, just a little, and my father heard it. For 12 years, he ignored everything. But now, he was listening. He walked back into the study, closed the door, and read the rest of the letter. I never asked you to believe me. Not then, and not now. I only ask you to verify the truth yourself. Call the university, request the courier logs, check the security archive from the neighborhood system. Everything is still there, because truth doesn't expire. It waits. There was a long pause, then the final line. I survived without you. I built a life without you, and I became someone you no longer recognize. But before you decide to contact me again, ask yourself one question. Did you lose a son, or did you throw him away? Ethan Miller. The room went completely silent. My father lowered the paper slowly, his hands no longer steady, his mind no longer certain. For the first time in 12 years, doubt had entered the room. That same afternoon, he made the calls. First, the university admissions office. They confirmed it. Full scholarship. Ethan Miller. Accepted. Delivered. Then the courier company. Delivery confirmed. Signature recorded. Rachel Miller. By evening, he requested the neighborhood security archive. Old footage, but not deleted. Not erased. Not gone. At 7:42 p.m., the video file arrived. He watched it alone. Door locked, lights off, screen glowing in the dark. 2:14 de l'après-midi, courrier arrive. 2:15 p.m. Rachel signs the document. 2:16 p.m. She enters the house holding a large envelope. 2:19 p.m. She leaves without it, looking around nervously. My father paused the video, replayed it, again, and again, and again. Every replay broke something inside him. Every second rewrote the past. Every frame destroyed the lie he had lived in for 12 years. Downstairs, Rachel sat frozen on the couch. She knew. She felt it. The shift in the house. The silence. The truth coming back to life. For the first time in her life, Rachel Miller was afraid. And upstairs, my father sat in the dark, the letter still in his hand, the truth finally in front of him, and the weight of what he had done just beginning to crush him. That night, the house didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a courtroom, Silent, heavy, waiting for a verdict. My father sat at the dining table, the same table where, 12 years ago, he had decided my fate without a single question. Now, in front of him, sat Rachel. Between them lay three things: the letter, the printed courier log, and a paused frame from the security footage. Rachel holding the envelope. My envelope. Explain this. His voice was quiet, but it wasn't the quiet of calm. It was the quiet of something breaking. Rachel swallowed. Her fingers tightened around the edge of the table. Dad, I told you records can be wrong. That could be anything. Stop. One word. Sharp. Final. For the first time in her life, Rachel didn't control the room. I watched the footage, he said slowly. I called the university. I called the courier. I verified everything. A pause. Then the question that changed everything. Why did you do it? Rachel's eyes filled with tears instantly. But this time, they weren't perfectly timed. They were messy, real, desperate. I didn't think it would go this far, she whispered. My father's jaw tightened. Answer the question, Rachel. Her voice cracked because you always looked at him like he mattered more. The words fell like glass, shattering everything left in that room. He was the quiet one, the good one, the one teachers loved, the one everyone believed in. She continued, her breathing uneven. And me? I had to fight for every bit of attention. She looked up at him, eyes red. I just wanted one thing that was mine. My father stared at her, not as a daughter, but as a stranger. So you destroyed your brother's future? He asked. Her silence answered him. You let me throw him out. Still, silence. You watched him walk out that door with nothing. A tear slid down her face, but she still said nothing. My father leaned back in his chair slowly, as if the weight of 12 years had just landed on his chest all at once. I called him a thief, he whispered. I called my own son a liar, and I never even asked him to prove otherwise. His voice broke, just slightly, but enough. Rachel reached out. Dad, don't. He pulled his hand away. For the first time in her life, he didn't choose her. Upstairs, the house felt colder. Downstairs, everything was collapsing. And miles away, I sat in my office, watching it unfold exactly as I expected. Because I knew them. I knew how they reacted to pressure. I knew how long it would take. And I knew the truth would hit harder when they discovered it themselves. I didn't need to scream. I didn't need revenge speeches. All I needed was patience. My phone buzzed on the desk. Unknown number. I looked at it for a moment, then answered. Ethan, my father's voice. Older, heavier, smaller than I remembered. I didn't say anything. I let the silence stretch. Because silence forces truth to speak. I read your letter, he said. Another pause. Then, I was wrong. 12 years. And those were the first honest words he had ever given me. But I didn't respond with emotion. I responded with control. I know, I said calmly. On the other end, I could hear his breath catch. Because he expected anger. He expected pain. He expected the broken one. 8-year-old boy he threw out. But that version of me didn't exist anymore. I want to fix this, he said quickly. I want to make things right between us. I leaned back in my chair, looking out over the city lights, the life I built, the empire I created from nothing. Some things can't be fixed, I replied. Silence. Heavy, uncomfortable, deserved. I lost everything because of this, Ethan, he whispered. My eyes narrowed slightly. That line interested me. Everything? I asked. He exhaled slowly. The company. The board found out about internal document manipulation tied to the scholarship funding. Rachel's name is connected to it. There's an investigation now. There it was, the real damage. Not just emotional, financial, legal, public. The Miller family name, cracking under the weight of truth. And you need my help, I said. Not a question, a statement. Another long silence. Then finally, yes. I closed my eyes for a second, remembering that night, that door, that sentence. Get out of my house. I opened my eyes again, calm, controlled, intouchable. I'll consider it, I said. and I'll send you my terms." Before he could respond, I ended the call, because this was never about revenge. It was about power. And now, for the first time in our lives, the power belonged to me. Across the city, in that quiet house filled with regret, my father sat alone, the phone still in his hand, realizing something he never imagined. The son he threw away was now the only one who could decide their future, and I hadn't even made my final move yet. The next morning, my father received another envelope, not emotional, not personnel, professional, structured, precise, just like the man I had become. Inside was a document titled, Terms of Engagement, Miller Family Resolution. No greetings, no apologies, no wasted words, only conditions. My father read it once, then again, then a third time. Slower, because every line carried weight. Legal weight, financial weight, emotional weight. Condition 1, public correction. A formal written and recorded statement acknowledging that Ethan Miller was wrongfully accused, removed from the household without due cause, and that Rachel Miller fabricated the claim regarding the scholarship. His hands tightened, because this meant one thing. The truth would no longer stay inside the house. It would go public. Condition 2, legal accountability. Rachel Miller must sign a full confession document admitting falsification of academic and legal records related to scholarship fraud. Downstairs, Rachel sat on the couch, her phone in her hand. Notifications exploding, messages from friends, colleagues, people asking questions, rumors spreading. Because the investigation had already started leaking, and her name was at the center of it. Condition 3, financial separation. All Miller family assets connected to Ethan Miller's name, trust, or inheritance are to be fully released and transferred without restriction. My father's chest tightened again, because this meant he couldn't control anything anymore. Not money, not reputation, not the narrative. Condition 4, final clause. Upon completion of all above conditions, Ethan Miller will decide at his sole discretion whether to provide legal and financial consultation to assist in resolving the ongoing corporate investigation. That last line hit the hardest because it made one thing clear. I wasn't asking. I was offering a choice, and they were no longer in control of the outcome. That evening, my father called a family meeting. No extended relatives, no outsiders, just the truth. In the room, Rachel sat across from him, pale, silent, her confidence completely gone. He placed the document on the table. "You're going to sign this." His voice was firm, unshakable. Her eyes widened. "Dad, if I sign that, I could face charges." He didn't look away. "You already are." Silence filled the room, heavy, final. "Or we do nothing," he continued quietly, "and we lose everything anyway." A pause. Then, and we lose him forever. For the first time since childhood, Rachel looked small, not powerful, not admired, not in control. Just a girl who made a decision that finally caught up to her. Tears fell freely now. No performance, no manipulation, just consequences. "I didn't think it would destroy everything," she whispered. My father's reply was calm. "You didn't think at all." 3 days later, the statement went public. A recorded video, posted on the official Miller corporate page, and shared across multiple platforms. My father stood behind a podium, looking older than ever, tired, regret heavy in his voice. 12 years ago, I made a decision that cost me my son," he said. "I accepted a false accusation without evidence and removed Ethan Miller from my home unjustly." A pause. Then, my daughter, Rachel Miller, has admitted to falsifying the claim and withholding critical information related to a scholarship addressed to Ethan. The internet reacted instantly. Shock, support, outrage. The story spread fast because people understand betrayal, especially when it comes from family. Rachel's confession followed. Written, signed, legal, final. The corporate investigation escalated immediately. Board members stepped down, partners withdrew. Stock value dropped. Media outlets began covering the internal scandal. The Miller name, once respected, was now a headline for the wrong reasons. And through all of it, I stayed silent, watching, waiting, calculating. Because this was never about destroying them. It was about making them face the truth they buried. 1 week later, I received confirmation. All conditions completed, all documents signed, all transfers executed. My phone rang again. My father. I answered this time. "It's done," he said quietly. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "I know." A pause. Then, "Will you help us?" I looked out over the skyline again. The city I built my life in, the life I created without them, the strength I earned alone. "I'll review the case," I said, "and I'll decide what's worth saving." Because now, the power wasn't emotional. It was strategic, controlled, earned. And for the first time in our lives, the Miller family wasn't deciding my future. I was deciding theirs. Returned to that house 12 years after I was thrown out of it. Same driveway, same front door, same walls that once watched me leave with nothing. But I wasn't the same person who walked out. I was Ethan Miller, calm, controlled, and completely independent. The door opened.